Welcome to Central Florida Fishing with Steve. Special Christmas edition 2016 for Timmy and William. It's a beautiful day on Lake Gentry. About 62 degrees. December 17th, not too bad. It's going to be getting into the 80s today. Let's see if we can catch some fish. Let's go fishing with Steve. Let's go fishing with Steve. You catch so many you won't believe when you go fishing with Steve. So let's go fishing with Steve. Let's go fishing with Steve. Let's go fishing with Steve. Such a good time you don't want to leave when you go fishing with Steve. So let's go fishing with Steve. All right, Timmy and William, Merry Christmas. One of the lures I sent to you is my definite all-time favorite, and I'm going to start off with that lure. It's the Gold Rogue by Smithwick. It's got rattles inside. If you hold the hooks, you can hear the rattles inside, and it mimics, obviously, an injured bait fish like most lures do. Beautiful calm water out here, Lake Gentry. I'm going to tie the Palomar knot, which I think is the strongest of all the knots. Real easy to tie. I'm not going to go through it right now. We'll go through it later when we're off the water, because right now we're on the water and you know I want to fish. Always moisten your knots when you cinch it up. Let me grab my nail clippers, cut off the excess. I like this lure in calm water. If you look at the lure in the water, if we can get a picture of that, see, this one floats. It's just a floating lure. When you pull it, it just dives under the water, wiggles around a little bit, and then floats back up. Mimics an injured bait fish. All right, I'm going to give a cast in the weeds over there. Now, obviously, with 3 treble hooks, you don't want to cast right into the weeds. Let me give a cast in there, see what we can scare up. See if we can get something on our first cast of the day. You notice when I cast out that I like to let it sit for a few seconds. Let those vibrations of the water get out to the bass. Let them feel those vibrations. Then just start twitching the rod. And what's nice about the top water action, when a bass strikes, 9 out of 10 times you'll see it. And then, of course, obviously you're just going to set the hook. This is definitely my favorite spot in the lake. I've got several spots I like, but I usually start off here. There's a full moon about 4 nights ago, which usually means good fishing. Now the water's a little cooler, so they may be deeper. There's a little fish just moved out a little bit away from my lure. This lure's taking its time, working its way back to the surface. Your lures are brand new, so they're going to be popping back to the surface a lot quicker. I've caught a lot of fish on this particular lure. Time for me to get a new one. Nothing on our first cast. Let's keep fishing. I went ahead and put on a different Gold Rogue. After a while, they lose their buoyancy, and he's staying down there too long. Taking way too long to drift up. So I got a different one on. Watch the difference. I'm going to go ahead and cast along these weeds. Okay. You see where he splashed down? He's already on the top of the water. Watch. I'm going to go ahead and pull it. He's already up. Pull it again. He's already up. Pull it again, he's already up. And every time I pull it, that lure is just taking a little, it's just kind of diving down and flipping around like an injured bait fish. That's exactly what you want. Now we just got to wait for the fish to like it. Warming up quickly out here. What a beautiful day. Go ahead and go around and see if you can pan out to where those nice openings are in the weeds over there. Go ahead and make my way over there. We'll take a few casts in around there, and if we don't find some fish there, then they may be a little bit deeper water. We'll take a ride out there. close enough. If you do happen to cast into weeds with a lure that has all these treble hooks, don't panic. The worst thing you could do is panic and try to yank it out right away. Let the lure sit, let it settle, and then slowly work it out of the weeds. If you cast a lure in the tree, same thing. First thing people want to do when those lures get in the branches is pull. All that does is take that lure, take the momentum of that lure, and wrap it around the branch. It's going to wrap, the line's going to wrap in amongst it, in on itself, and then forget it, it's gone. If you're casting up in trees, up into twigs, stop, let it sit, let it settle, and slowly pull. That's your best chance of getting those lures recovered. Now we're going to take one more cast with this guy, and we're going to move on to some little bit deeper water. We got to find these guys and gals. Okay, the gold rogue's not working out too well today, but trust me, it catches fish. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the worms I gave you. I call these tube worms. I don't know the actual real name. And the keeper hooks. I already tied my Palomar knot. Like I said, we'll go through that later. The thing I like about the keeper hooks is they don't tear up your worms like traditional hooks do, traditional worm hooks. You take this little barbed end, poke it right in the end of the worm, all the way in, okay? Then just take your hook, and you want your hook, you want the tip of the hook to barely be sticking out your worm. So what I do is line the worm up to the hook like that, put your thumb right there, then that's where your hook's going to go in, okay? And kind of pull it through the worm. Now if you're able to feel it, I can barely feel the tip of the worm, barely feel. Now with that kind of setup, you're able to cast into the weeds. I'm going into the weeds. See? Look at it. I'm into the weeds and I'm not even scared. Because I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to slowly pull the worm through those weeds. You know those fish love to hide out in the weeds. I don't know about today, but you know, traditionally of course. And I'm just letting it sit in the spots. You know, when I get a little clear spot in the weeds, I just let it sit, sink down for a second or two. Just pull it right on through, nice and slow. I know you really can't see. Maybe you can see it hopping around a little bit in the weeds. Now that it's getting closer, you can see it. See, it's just hopping through the weeds, not getting snagged up. And when it gets in the open water, maybe let it sink for a little bit. And here again, when it gets in the open water, let it sink down to the bottom. Twitch your rod end, because that's going to zigzag back and forth like a injured bait fish also, even though it's obviously more like a worm. But I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that. See, kind of diving all over the place. Anyway, let's give it some more casts. You done? Yeah. Worm day. Oh, he's a little guy. He's a little guy. He's a little guy, but he likes my little worm. Hey, look at that. Look at that nice little guy. Woo! Yeah. Okay, now we're going to lift the fish. You know you want to grab the fish by the lip. Well, I really can't. Hey, let me get in the back of the boat so Jennifer can get a better picture, get away from the sun. Oops.
There we go.
You want to grab him by the lip. You really want to grab him by the body because you know your oils are going to hurt him. And look, I caught him right in the lip, what you want. Ow! And we always want to put the fish back gently. He's a little guy, but still, fun to catch. We always want to put him back gently. And here again with these keeper concept hooks. Just poke the barb back in the end of the worm. I'm ready to go again. Let's get another one. Okay, another one of my favorites, the rubber frog. Basic, simple. You have a little weight here, you know, so he can cast out far, but yet he floats. You have two hooks here. This is an old frog. The hooks are a little rusty, but I guarantee you they're still sharp. The rubber worm, you know, we fish it down low a little bit. Got a plane going overhead. You can fish it, you know, close to the surface, reeling it fast, down at the bottom by letting it sit. And remember with the rubber worm, I don't think it's possible to fish it too slow. Let it sit at the bottom. If the fish are sluggish, they know it's there. If they want it, you know, just twitch it just a little bit now and then. I don't think it's possible to fish a rubber worm too slow. The gold rogue, more of a intermediate bait. Sit at the surface, dive down a little bit, comes back up, dives down a little bit. Now your frog though, totally surface. And since the hooks are weedless, you can cast right in those lily pads. I'm going to throw right in those lily pads. I'm not even afraid of getting snagged. They're right into the pads. Again, I like to let the lure sit for a few seconds, especially in calm water. Because believe me, any interested fish within 50 feet is going to hear that. Now I'm just going to pull that frog through the lily pads. Now it is possible, you know, there's that spot in the lily pad where it kind of forms a V. If you look at that close lily pad, maybe you can see it. So it is possible to get the frog hung up in there, but you know, it doesn't happen all the time. And you know, with the 12-pound line that I use, I can usually just pull it right out of there. But you still have to be a little bit careful. But you know, for the most part, look at it. Just come. Now, right now, it's sitting on the lily pad. Just let it sit there. Maybe wiggle it a little bit, moving the pad a little bit. Pull it off the pad, because I've had so many times happen where you leave it sit on that pad. You know, look, it's on the pad, and now it's off the pad. But you wiggle it around a little bit, and there's a hungry bass underneath just waiting for that frog to come off. Right now, sitting on the lily pad. I don't know if you can see it. Pull it a little bit. I'm moving the pad. Frog's going to jump right off the pad. So many times I've had hungry bass just waiting for him right underneath there. Swallow. Now with the frog, when you see, I got caught in that V. That's no problem. I just pull him right out of there. I do want to say with the frog, when you do get a strike, this is really hard to do. But what's recommended is to actually let the fish have it for about 2 full seconds. When you know that fish has that frog in his mouth, that's hard to do. But it's key. You want him to get that frog in there. He's not going to spit it out usually. But if if he just grabs it and you yank right away, because you're going to see him hit it. If you yank it right away, he might not have the hooks. You're yanking the frog legs right out of his mouth. Let him have it for about 2 full seconds, and then give him all you got with that hook set. You have to do a pretty powerful hook set with a lure like this. Let's give it another try. Obviously, you see I cast in a little different spot. That's one thing about bass. If they don't bite in the first couple casts in a particular spot, you know, don't beat a spot to death. Just move on to a different spot. You know, right now I have the anchor set down just so I can fish this lily pad area. So I'm going to work in a clockwise or counterclockwise manner. Doesn't matter. I just happen to be working counterclockwise right now, and I'm just, you know, fishing about 30 feet over from the spot I previously fished. Just like a frog swimming. Yeah. Just like a frog swimming. There's a lot of fancy frogs out on the market, and I've used a lot of them. But this basic frog, basic, very basic, seems to work really well. Let me give another cast, about another 30 feet over, counterclockwise. Landed right on a lily pad. I'm just going to skip from pad to pad. And like I say, this is what is exciting about the topwater action. You know, when you get to see the bass strike that lure. But like I said, that's what also makes it difficult to be patient and let him get that hook in his mouth. Otherwise, you're just setting your hook into nothing but air. Now I'm fishing this a little faster than I might otherwise would for the purposes of this video. So don't be afraid to... What?
Because it's hot.
Oh, Jennifer said because it's hot. Yeah. I'm going to give one more cast in the open water, see what happens. Yeah.